In this video, we're going to find out how well Football Manager predicted the English Premier League season. I've set up this database using the real world game mode in FM24 with the first transfer window disabled. That way, Football Manager has the most real world experience with kind of everything that actually happened in real life with the timing they happened in real life to give it the best possible odds and the most information possible to give the best predictions. And then I'm going to simulate the 23-24 EPL season 5 times. And we're going to take averages over the course of those 5 seasons to see what Football Manager predicted, where each team placed, and we're going to compare it to BBC pundit experts and my own English Premier League predictions to see how well Football Manager does against the experts and myself, who's definitely not an expert. But all right, I'm going to simulate this 5 times, and we're going to take averages across the 5 seasons. Let's get into season number 1. And here are the results for the first simulation and some interesting things happening here. Aston Villa finishing in 5th, very close to how they did in real life. City topping the league, Arsenal in 3rd, Liverpool in 4th. Man UFC or Manchester United, Newcastle and Chelsea all kind of in a similar position as they are in real life. But I think the big thing that in season 1 they did not get quite correct is Crystal Palace finishing in 18th. Would they finish in real life 10th or something like that? That one is a little bit off, but always there's going to be one that's off. Otherwise, looking at overall for season 1, pretty decent stuff from Football Manager. Let's get into the second sim. And simulation number 2 has Liverpool winning the Premier Division, but some surprising things here. Burnley finishing in 9th. Villa down to 10th, Nottingham Forest really high, and Brighton doing really well. And once again, Crystal Palace getting relegated. This really shows how much variability, especially like from 10th down, there is in the Premier Division and how different it can be depending on simulation to simulation. So hopefully over the course of 5 simulations, it'll kind of average out for Football Manager. But this is Sim 2. Let's move into Sim 3. And Sim 3 looks a little bit more like what happened in real life. I think City getting first, Liverpool and Arsenal finishing out the top 3. Spurs, I think, got 5th in real life, so 4th there isn't bad. Villa, maybe a little low. Brighton, maybe a little bit high. Oh, Everton's a little bit high, actually. Crystal Palace, much closer to where they were in real life. West Ham, really far down. 38th. I wonder if the Crystal Palace ones are so low because at the beginning of the game, Roy Hodgson is still the manager. So we don't have like the new and improved Crystal Palace that we saw. So that could be the reason that they didn't do so well in the first Sims, but nice to see them in 13th now. And we got the bottom 3 almost exactly correct. Just flip Luton and Sheffield United. This overall seems like a pretty decent sim, helping things to average out. This is Sim 4. Sim 3. Let's move on to Sim 4. And Sim 4, once again, this one's a little bit interesting. Liverpool winning the league, but United finishing 2nd, City down to 3rd, Arsenal in 4th. But Aston Villa a little bit higher. So, like, some things are worse, but some things are... And Crystal Palace in 19th. And Wolves in 18th. They did not... To be fair, I don't think I rated Wolves at the beginning of the season, but Crystal Palace much lower than they finished in real life. It'll be interesting to see how this averages out altogether. Luton again in 20th. They have a really tough time in Football Manager. Spurs finishing in 11th. That's a bit of a surprise. So some interesting happenings here, but generally I think that the top 7 or so is looking pretty good. I don't think that's super difficult to predict, all things considered. But one more sim, and then we're going to pull up the averages together. So let's do one last simulation, and then I will do the math on all the points and see where each team averaged out. And our final set of predictions, Burnley finishing 11th. To be fair, I think in my predictions I had Burnley finishing 11th, but City winning it, Liverpool and Arsenal finishing at the top 3, Spurs getting 4th, United getting 5th. They were much lower in real life, but Villa up there, Chelsea up there, Brighton maybe a little bit too high, Newcastle maybe a little bit too low, but otherwise, these ones look good. Crystal Palace doing much better, finishing in 12th. Wolves, Brentford, maybe West Ham a little low, but otherwise everything looks looks pretty decent. Everton finishing a little low, but with the 6 point deduction, I can understand that. But those are all 5 of the simulations for this. I am going to go through, look at the total number of points for each team, average them all together, and then we are going to see what Football Manager predicted the placings for each team would be. And then we are going to compare it to BBC pundit experts and myself, who's definitely not an expert, and let's see how we all compared. So I'm going to do the math, and then I'm going to take you over to the Excel sheet where I did all that math so that you all can see it. We're going to compare the different placings, and then we will conclude this video. So I will see you all on the Excel sheet. So just for some transparency on how I did this, here is what the spreadsheet actually looks like. This is the team and the position that they actually finished in real life. These are their point totals for each of the seasons. This is their total and this is their average. So what I'm going to do is I am going to put all of these in the correct order now. But if you want to see what it looks like when we change the averages, I can sort this in a little bit here. But as you can see here, Man City did have the most, so they finished with an average total of about 82 points, so that is correct. Liverpool and Arsenal might be flipped a little bit, but there's some other ones here. And we can sort this if we sort this maybe Z to A. We can see here that a lot of those flip. So I will put these in the correct order now, and I will do that over on the next page here. So I will see you all there. And this is what the order looks like. This is what Football Manager had as the total or as the EPL table for the 23-24 season. There are some things that we can see here that are kind of obvious misses. First, Crystal Palace being relegated. That did not turn out at all. I think Burnley did pretty well. Yeah, they had Burnley staying up. The middle looks pretty decent, to be honest. Maybe Brentford being a little high. Aston Villa should have been higher, but that was a tough one to predict. Brighton being a little bit high. But otherwise, the top 7 or so otherwise looks good. The big miss is Man United, but I think at the beginning of the season, a lot of people missed that. But otherwise, some pretty good stuff from Football Manager. So the way we're going to evaluate how each of the predictors did is looking at their position difference. So in this case, Man City finished first in real life, and Football Manager had them finishing first over the course of the 5 seasons, so their position difference was 0. Liverpool finished in third in real life. Football Manager had them finishing second, so that position difference is 1, and then so on and so forth. And then I'm going to add all of these up together, as you can see at the bottom here. So I've also coded this. So anything in a bright green was 0. Anything in the darker green is a 1-point position difference. Anything that was kind of average, so a 2 or 3 difference, is coded in orange. And anything that was really far off, anything that's 4 or above, is coded in red as kind of a bad prediction. So I've done this for Football Manager, the BBC pundit experts who predicted the top 7 places in the Premier League, and I did this for myself as well, so let's see how they compared. So the BBC pundits did the top 7 places in the Premier Division. So we're doing it with the top 8 sides because like Spurs, Villa were also in there, and Chelsea, Newcastle, so on. So based on that, we're going to look at the differences. So the BBC pundits, in only predicting the top 7 places or 8 places or so, got 14 points. So they had 14-point positional difference. The big one being that they had United finishing third and United finished 8th, I think. So that was the really bad one. But how did Football Manager do? So if we look at how they did, Football Manager actually did better than the BBC pundits. They had a difference of 13. So Football Manager, in predicting the top 7 places, did better than the experts at BBC Sport. But that being said, Football Manager against me, they had a total positional difference of 46. Mine was actually 42. I don't think that's a big enough difference, though, to say that I did really better than Football Manager. I think we were probably about equal. Looking at some of the ones that were hard to predict, Villa was the tough one to predict. I had them finishing 8th, Football Manager 9th. They had a fantastic season. The big drop was definitely United just across the board. Ones that the only other one that Football Manager got really wrong was Crystal Palace. But otherwise, and maybe Brentford, but otherwise, Football Manager did really well. I got a little bit more like correct predictions, but I had a lot that were really far off. I had Bournemouth getting relegated. They had a good season. I had Burnley finishing 11th. They finished in 19th. I had Wolves getting relegated, and obviously I was way off with Villa and United. So I did really poorly there. I did get lucky on some. Like I got really lucky on the West Ham finish. I got really lucky on the Newcastle finish. I got a bit lucky on, Arsenal and Man City. I didn't think were super hard to predict. So I had a few lucky picks, I would say. But overall, I mean, Football Manager did really well. Like they weren't super far off on any of them. I'd say Crystal Palace was the big one that they were super far off with. But if they had switched Crystal Palace and Brentford and, maybe shifted the trajectory of those teams, like Football Manager would have been very, very close, very spot on. Over the course of 5 sims, I think Football Manager did pretty well. So overall, it seems like Football Manager did a decent job of predicting the 23-24 EPL season, getting the top 7 better than the BBC experts. And I would say that me and Football Manager were fairly on par in our predictions, all things considered. So overall, Football Manager did a pretty decent job of predicting the EPL season, at least in my opinion, using the real world game mode. And I hope you all are doing well. I hope you all are having a good week, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.